SYND Ghana. And today we are going to talk about a topic, building resilient communities through nature-based solutions, best practices from Ghana. So we get to hear about some exemplary initiatives by Ghana and other CSOs. That's building a resilient communities using nature-based solutions. So I don't want to talk too much. Like I earlier said, most of us are very hungry, so I want to do it short, and then we move straight into the panel discussions. So before we move straight to the discussions, I would like to call our Deputy Executive Coordinator, Mr. Solomon Yamwa, to give a short remarks before we move ahead with the discussion. So please welcome Solo as he come and give a short opening remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening to this wonderful conversation which is going to happen. As we see the theme, building climate resilient communities through nature-based solutions, best practices from Ghana. And such a theme, you need people with much in-depth knowledge and content about that conversation. Having Obed and Charles here, I know we are going to have a very rich conversation. And we would also like to take the opportunity to welcome you for this event. We wish you, the audience, will contribute to the conversation and make the difference we want to see. I would like to once again welcome you. And Salome, thank you very much for the opportunity. And we know we'll be having a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamwa. As Ghanaians, we have something that we say that Sankofa Yinchi. I think I didn't introduce myself, sorry. So my name is Salome Eje, and I'm with the Strategic Youth Network for Development, where I lead youth participation in RED Plus program. So we'll move straight into the panel discussion. And then the first on my list, he called himself the youngest forester, and he's with SYND. His name is Prince Yabua Ochre, and he likes to be called Pescoba, who leads the restoration project at SYND. So, Prince, please join us up here. Kindly clap for them as they come. Next on the panel too is Mr. Obed. So Obed Owusu Adai, who is the co-founder and managing campaigner at EcoCare. Please clap for Obed too as he come up on stage. We also have Mr. Che Kwejo Iyamo. Oh, okay, so he shares the same name as our Deputy Executive Director. So he is the Executive Director at Help Foundation Africa. So Mr. Che Kwejo Iyamo, if you are here, kindly join us here too. Okay, I think he will join us later. And then the next one is Mr. Sapondua Charles, who is the Monitoring, Evaluation and Budgeting Manager at Climate Change Directorate, Forestry Commission Ghana. So please, let's clap for all of them. I want to thank all of you for honoring our invitation and agreeing to be on this panel. We are very grateful. So I want to zoom in straight into the conversation, so we do it fast and then leave here. So let me start with Obed. Okay, so please have the mic. I know I've mentioned your name and your position, but can you briefly introduce yourself again and highlight some interventions that you are implementing at EcoCare?
Thank you very much, Salome. My name is Obed Owusu Adai.
Okay.
a very proud forester. So I'm happy that I also see a young forester here.
Yeah.
I've been working within the NRE space for about 15 years now. I used to work with Forestry Commission before I joined Dropping Balls, then Civic Response. I currently manage, or I co-founded and manage EcoCare Ghana with my colleague Samuel Mauto, who is doing a PhD in Oregon now. At EcoCare Ghana, we basically work on policies, but on policies around issues of forest. So forest is at the center of what we do. We do forest and development, forest and climate change, forest and agriculture, and forest and wildlife. Maybe to focus on some of the interventions that we are doing around issues of nature-based solution. We currently have about 3 projects that we are doing, and if you have time, there are some brochures at the back there of our 3 programs that we are doing around nature-based solutions. So the first we're doing is the LEAN. It's a LEAN project, landscapes and environmental agility across the nation, as being led by Rainforest Alliance, and it's a consortium program. Basically, what we are doing within the transition zone where we operate with Dropping Balls is to support communities to first restore. But before we do restoration, what we are doing is setting up a landscape governance structure. So we borrowed from the REDD+ implementation framework, where they set up the hotspot intervention areas and hotspot management board, that before you can effectively implement any landscape activity, you need to have a strong functioning governance structure that is responsible for implementing and owning the implementation of any intervention. So that is what we are doing within the transition landscape from Ofinso to Techiman to Nkoranza, where we are setting up what we call landscape management boards and working with the board to develop a landscape management framework plan, where we are identifying areas of intervention and supporting them with technical and financial support to implement the plans. The second we are doing is the AFR 100. Now, Ghana and other countries, African countries, we have committed to restore 100 million hectares of our degraded landscapes. And it's been led by WRI. They set up a partner institution called One Tree Planted, and they are funding institutions like ours to plant trees. We have committed to plant 300,000 trees in the next 5 years, and we are also doing that within the Ofinso enclave. Last year, we did about 100,000. This year, we have just done about 212,000 trees, and we have an interesting model that we are working with, just as we discussed in our first session. We don't want to go and plant trees. I am against planting trees. I am for restoration. Restoration, it needs to encompass the 3 elements that we discussed. It needs to be for people, it needs to be for climate, and also needs to be for biodiversity. So tree planting that involves just going to plant monocultural, exotic species are not what we are promoting. We are promoting integrating indigenous species. And for the past 2 years, we've planted about 300,000 of indigenous, mostly the Terminalia species, Terminalia superba and Avarensis. We are doing Manzonia. We are doing other indigenous species that were within that landscape before it got degraded. And the last intervention we are doing is what we call the climate generation, where we partnered with the French volunteers, or the EU volunteers, to support communities and secondary schools. So we selected some secondary schools, partnered with them, supported them with seedlings, and then support in regreening their environment within the school. So you go to Techiman Secondary School, you go to Osioso and other schools within the transition landscape, and you see that there are a lot of trees on their campuses, and it's through our interventions. So these are some of the interventions that we are doing around climate and around NBS, and I'm sure we'll get opportunity to talk more about them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Obed. I must say you are doing a lot. But before I come back to you again, I want to move to Mr. Che. So the same question, Mr. Che, Okay, so please briefly tell us about yourself and some of the interventions you are also doing in terms of nature-based solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. We are working on three key areas: Help Foundation Africa. One of the areas we're working on is working with communities to develop what we call climate rationale. And climate rationale is a very important process of understanding the underlying scientific conditions and information that justifies your project and then develops proper attribution. And for some projects that are climate based, these are not properly designed. So we're doing that one of a kind. And we're working in the Angonaga district of the Volta region of Ghana, especially in the Fuveme community where due to impact of climate change, they have to be relocated because their entire area is flooded and they are relocated to a new community, and that community as well is also experiences impact of climate change. So it requires that we work with them to develop nature-based solutions to address this. And one of the things we are doing is mangrove restoration. So we are doing restoration in the area, especially we have seen that the mangrove resources in the area is overexploited to the extent that there is massive extraction and even exporting through illegal routes to Togo. So there is a lot of dependence in the area, resulting in a lot of mangrove degradation in the area. So we're working with the communities in this regard. What we are doing is that we are looking at building community institutions, forming structures that are eco-friendly, that understands the principles of nature-based solutions so that they can own the process and then they can be committed to support the process. Because when you do restoration and the communities are not part of the process, what will happen is that they will exploit the resources and then everything will be degraded again. So we're doing that. We are also working on energy transition and then some climate action. And within the energy transition, we are providing information through our digital platform for everybody to understand, especially that Ghana has an energy transition framework from 2022 to 2070, and a lot of people do not know the content. So what we are doing is providing information and working with government to provide dialogue platform where people can also make input. Some of them are online. That is a forum online. You can go ask any question on the energy transition framework and then you'll be answered. The other one that we are doing is that we are providing information to civil society and building capacity on the nationally determined contribution, NDCs. And in Ghana, we as a nation has developed a nationally determined contribution framework that looks at how much emissions we want to cut and what we want to do. And we want to ensure that civil society's input actions are captured and are reported within that framework so that when government is reporting on behalf of government of Ghana on the global scale, the work of civil society is duly captured. So we are doing that. We are building capacities. We are sharing information, and then we are developing, co-creating a template that will help us be able to gather information for this nationally determined contribution reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Che. So let me move straight to Charles. I know last week, exactly a week ago, we were here discussing about REDD+, the resource-based payment mechanism, and I know you work with the Climate Change Directorate as well. So briefly tell us about the REDD+ program and other interventions that FC is doing around nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and most grateful for the invitation to be part of this panel. As you said, the REDD+ Secretariat or the Climate Change Directorate of the Forestry Commission, our mandate mainly is to support the Forestry Commission achieve its mission and vision by developing climate change policies and actions in order to support the emission reductions agenda of the country. Now, there has been a number of things that we have done. in terms of the implementation of RED Plus, there are 3 phases of RED Plus implementation, right from the readiness phase, the pilot, and the implementation phase. Now, Ghana has implemented or gone through the full cycle, and we have developed all the necessary structures and governance arrangements. Within the readiness phase, countries are supposed to equip themselves with what we call the Warsaw Framework. There are 4 pillars. You have to develop your RED Plus, your reference level, country reference level, and then you have to develop a RED Plus strategy. You have to have a national forest monitoring system, and you have to have what we call the safeguards and information system. All these 4 have been achieved by the country, and based on that, we have been able to go forward to implement a pilot. In Ghana, our pilot for RED Plus was the Forest Investment Program, which was mainly implemented by the Forestry Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Now, the final phase saw Ghana going ahead to develop a full-blown project during the readiness phase, which we call our pioneer program, the Ghana Cocoa Forest RED Plus program. And this is one premier program that we have implemented under RED Plus, and the objective was to ensure that we reduce the emissions that are being produced within the high forest zone. And so we targeted the cocoa landscape, and we engage with cocoa farmers and ensure that we build their capacity and provide them with the necessary technical knowledge to be able to intensify their farming activities as against expansionist agriculture. And so we ensure that we support them to increase their yield on the same parcel of land, while also undertaking what we call climate smart agriculture. And so by so doing, they are enhancing the environmental integrity, at the same time also improving upon their yield. Besides that, we also support them in terms of livelihoods so that they can diversify their income sources. And this has gone a long way to support these farmers, and it has also resulted in actual emission reductions that we have been able to estimate and verify, which has been paid for. And this was the first time Ghana has received payments for emission reductions in the country, and this was received in early this year. We received over $4 million US for this, and we continue to estimate emission reductions for the subsequent years. This $4 million US was only for half of the 2019 accounting year. We have estimated for 2020 and 2021, and we are seeing significant emissions reductions that will also accrue significant amounts of money for us. Besides the Ghana Cocoa Forest RED Plus program, we have also developed the Ghana Share Landscape Emission Reductions Program. And so the Ghana Cocoa Forest RED Plus program, as I mentioned, is covering the high forest zone of the country, which is the southwestern part of the country where we have most of our high forest zone. Now, the Share Landscape Emission Reductions Project targets the northern savanna zone of the country. Now, this is also being supported through grants by the Green Climate Fund and private sector, and then counterpart funding from the country, the government of Ghana. This is also aimed at ensuring that we restore, as Obed would say, restore the savanna landscape and ensure that we curtail the sharp decline of forest cover within the savanna landscape. Now, we also, as it's being done in the cocoa program, are supporting farmers with livelihood options, and also bringing them together in the, what we call the community resource management area system, where we involved farmers to come together, or community members to come together to support in the management of our forests, both, forest reserves and also the community forests as well. Then there is also what we call the forest and farm facility, where we are partnering with the FAO to support farmers on climate resilience. We provide technical support for them to build resilience against the impacts of the climate change. And the big one that we are all talking about in COP28 is our new emission reductions payment agreement that we have signed with the LEAF Coalition. This is also something that has come about due to our in-country capacity that we have built, and the progressive learnings that we have had within this whole period of about over 14 to 16 years, where we started the implementation of REDD+. And so I will end here, and then probably we can take it up if there are further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. I think I'll still come back to you. I like where you ended. I must congratulate FC for receiving the emission reduction payment for eminent. So I'll ask that share some strategic steps that communities or collaborative steps that efforts undertaken by Forestry Commission in securing the emission reduction payment agreement with Eminent, and how do you foresee this landmark agreement contributing to Ghana's broader initiative for climate resilience and sustainable forest management?
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier on, we did a very thorough study into the drivers of deforestation, and we came up with a number of drivers, but prime to it was the agriculture as a driver. Conversion of forest into agricultural lands was one of the major drivers. And so we decided that we would take that up and ensure that we collaborate very closely with farmers to be able to let them understand how their activities contribute to the climate change impacts, and how they can also support in the emission reductions agenda. And so it was a bottom-up approach that we used. And so so now we identify that agriculture is a major driver of deforestation. So what do? It doesn't end there. We need to go on and find solutions. And this is where we engage them to build their capacity in terms of understanding what they would have to do, how to build resilience, how to adapt to the situation that they are in, and how to also support in the mitigation agenda of REDD+, or the emission reductions. And so there was a discussion with these farmers, and we engaged to be able to get them on board to implement the right agricultural practices. Now, with them understanding what to do and they trying to implement what has to be done, you need to give them some assurance, okay? And that is when we also came up with a very robust and well-engaged, benefit sharing plan. And so this benefit sharing plan caught up with everyone, because we engage widely between the communities, farmers, all the stakeholders, traditional authorities, the sectors that were involved, and also the government institutions. And all these engagements came up with some numbers. of apportioning benefits to all these stakeholders. And about 69% of the emission reductions payments that we receive goes to these farmers. And that was a very good, motivation for farmers to want to engage in the emission reductions agenda or the REDD+. And so with all these background, the Leaf Coalition posted a call for application by countries, REDD+ countries. And Ghana, with all the lessons and the capacity with the past years, took this challenge up and applied for this to be part of the coalition. And as we all know, the Leaf Coalition's main aim is ensuring that they provide financing for lowering emissions. Okay, so Ghana's response, came up with also a number of technical, responses to, comments and reviews that we had to, respond to with respect to the process of estimating our emissions. So, as it stands now, the emission reductions payment agreement that has been signed now is actually for vintage emission reductions. What I mean is that it's for past emission reductions that has been achieved. The original plan was to gear towards payments for emission reductions in the future. But with the in-country capacity that we have and we have built within the process, and the fact that we have already been able to, through the Ghana Cocoa Forest Program, show results. The vintage ERs also, now that we have, are credible to be paid for. And so they already showed interest in paying for the ERs that has been achieved in the past. So this is just to let us know that it's very important that capacity is built, with the process of REDD+ implementation. And once that is done and the necessary steps or procedures are followed in country, then we would be able to cover or have credible, reporting for the whole period of implementation. And then we can be able to receive payments for the period that we have implemented the process. And so this is how the Leaf Coalition's process has been. And we hope to be able to receive payments for these vintage ERs as soon as possible. And then we can go into the future and also see how much we can be able to receive in terms of payments for emission reductions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles. So now let me move to the youngest forester on the panel. So, Yeboah, please share some interventions by SYND, nature-based solution interventions that SYND is doing. Briefly share some of them with us.
Okay, so SYND operates within 4 thematic areas: climate change, biodiversity, energy access, and forestry. So under our climate change program, we have a program that's the Youth in Agroecology, where we are engaging with young farmers to go back to the old methods of farming using the organic method without chemicals. So with that, they're able to do farming which is devoid of chemicals, and we believe that is one way of ensuring that food that goes to the markets are of high quality. Also under our biodiversity program, we have the mangrove restoration and the sea turtle conservation project. With our mangrove restoration, we know that mangrove has a lot of benefits, such as controlling flooding. They also serve as habitats for fish, which will promote food security. So we are restoring some degraded mangrove site at Adan, which we believe will come with a lot of benefit for the community members. Also, we know sea turtles are being impacted by the climate change. So we are undertaking a project to build a hatchery for the sea turtle, so that, because we know the importance of sea turtle in the management of our ocean. So this is one project that we are also undertaking. And under our forestry initiative, we are doing a forest restoration project at Agogo, which is within the transitional zone. With this project, we realized that the community which used to have a thick forest area has lost the forest due to human activities. So we are restoring the forest because we believe that once the forest is restored, it will bring a lot of ecosystem benefits. There will be so much rainfall, there will be pollination, which will lead to food production and thereby ensuring that there will be food security. Because the forest has been destroyed, the community is being impacted by climate change, and they don't have easy access to food now because all their farms are not getting adequate rainfall for their farm produce to flourish. So these are some of the initiatives at SYN that we are currently implementing to ensure that we all contribute to the fight against climate change and also ensures that we achieve the common goal together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. After listening to all the panel members, I think I see the connection here where all of you are doing something similar. Stache is doing mangrove, EcoCare is doing restoration, and others. So the connection is there. But I will still come back to you. So how are young people, since you're a young person, how are young people actively contributing and driving the implementation of nature-based solutions for climate resilience in local communities, taking inspirations from Ghana's experiences? Yeah.
So many young Ghanaians are embarking on a lot of projects to ensure that we all contribute to the fight against projects. SYND is leading on a forest restoration project. We have a Young Green Entrepreneurs program where we have brought together a lot of young people who are embarking on climate actions or initiatives which contribute to the fight against climate change. One of them is undertaking honeybee production through an agroecology system. We've been to his farm and realized that the activity that he's producing there, at the end of the day, they help him to get organic honey which are not altered. Aside that, young people are also into mangrove restoration. Even with the Green Ghana initiative, for instance, a lot of youth take it upon ourselves. With the last Green Ghana Day, SYND was able to organize about 50 students from University of Ghana and other youth groups to go to the Shire Hills to plant some seedlings. So I believe the youth know the impact of climate change, and they believe that because they are the future leaders, if they don't take actions now, in the future, the impact of climate change is going to negatively affect them. So the youth in Ghana have taken it upon themselves to undertake one project or other to ensure that we are able to build a climate resilience community that they can enjoy in the future. So I believe the youth of Ghana are doing enough, but we still need more support so that we can upskill the various interventions that we are taking in the fight against climate change.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've heard from the young people. I mean, that's why the babies are so bad, we always say. So let's hear from the CSO side too. So I'll come to you, Mr. Che. So could you share examples of successful collaborations between CSOs and local communities in Ghana, highlighting the role of CSOs in promoting nature-based solutions for climate resilience?
Yes, I think that there are a lot of success stories with CSOs working with communities, and that is a big plus for Ghana. I think that a lot of CSOs know their community entry, they know how to work with communities, and there are several successes across board. I know of the projects that we do and the ownership of communities playing a role in even restoring. Sometimes the areas we work with them, they on their own volunteer to also do extra, especially because we make them understand their role, the benefits to them, and the benefits to nature. My friend was talking about the wetland and the correlation with fishing and fish species. Once you make them understand, and for fishing communities that depends on wetland, they now know that if they protect the wetland, they are protecting their own future, they are protecting their own livelihood. And that is one of the communications that we have done so well in Ghana. So the success is built on the approach and also the communication and then the collaboration. Beyond communities, I think one thing that CSOs are doing well is our close collaboration with government. I've seen many CSOs how they are working with government officials. And in some countries, people say that, and they refer to Ghana to say that our CSOs are not loud, because rarely will you see CSOs organizing demonstrations and other things. We would want to collaborate, we would want to dialogue, and we are achieving a lot of success on that. I've even seen a win-win situation where a lot of government officials, including policymakers, align to some CSOs, either by virtue of the work they do as the ambassadors and things like that. So the communication, the relationship building, and the mobilization, these are the success factors that is driving our work as CSOs in Ghana. And I want us to continue that so that we are able to get to where we are. Especially in most instances, we see CSOs even putting up initiatives and then inviting government officials to come and see. It is shared responsibility. Now, what is even most interesting is the spirit of co-creation, where even CSOs are developing proposals jointly with government, and that is where we can move forward. So one of the things I would want to recommend is that after COP28, we need to gather back in Ghana, work together, and see how we can mainstream a lot of these nature-based solutions, especially what we are doing, what we have come to learn, and see how we can do it together collaboratively with communities and with government. But also, a lot of communities were not able to come because the CSOs here did not have much funding to bring communities. So what I would recommend that we do is that let's go back to the communities. I've seen a lot of the youth and others taking videos and taking these contents. We can translate them in the local language. Let's share it with them so that they can also come to a certain level to appreciate what COP28 is about and what we hope to achieve. So this is what I want to say in brief.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think you've taken the micro best, so I will just come to you. So you mentioned 3 interventions that you are doing in the community. So I want to ask how you are involving the community members and how are these projects helping build resilient communities in Ghana?
So thank you very much. And I enjoyed the passion with which my brother was talking about the interventions and how civil society is engaging government. At our end, and I think there's a very, very important point we need to make. You cannot build climate resilient communities without involving the communities. The communities need to be at the center of the whole process. And that is why earlier this morning, we had that conversation around community-led restoration and how to really get communities involved. At EcoCare Ghana, the communities we work with are at the center of the projects that we implement. We take considerable efforts in making sure that we do proper scoping and identification of key actors within the communities. And then we have our community champions. And I think one of the other very, very important elements of what we do as part of our Lean project is to institutionalize local level governance, natural resource governance, through the landscape management boards. I mean, I am a forester. I know, and it's easier to stay in Accra and say that the law says this, the policies say this. But when you go to the local level, your laws and policies you formulate in Accra doesn't always work on the ground. So you need local champions who will take up the concepts and the policy angles and then lead it at the local level. That is why most of the time we try to do what we call piloting. We pilot interventions with local champions, and then we are able to showcase the results and bring on board other community members who will see the outcome of those interventions. And so in our work, those are some of the things that we do. Then again, and we discussed it this morning, but the other thing that we do is to ensure that you also respect community involvement. So it's one thing involving them, and the other thing respecting the role they play in it. Because communities, they look, they observe, when you are an NGO, you come to the community, you start engaging with them. I have had an example where I used to work with Chopping Boys. We went to a community, and even the community entry process, we fumbled a bit. And at an event, the Odikro kind of came and said, when you came, this and that you did in our community, that is not how we do it. And so the communities observed. And so you as somebody bringing an intervention, you need to have the humility to accept your wrongdoings and to work with the communities, especially the traditional and political leadership of the communities. Sometimes we make several mistakes. We go to communities and we handpick, we choose and pick the people we want to work with without recourse to the authorities within the communities. You cannot get sustainable results if you sideline traditional leadership, you sideline political leadership within the communities. And so those are some of the entry points that we have used at EcoCare to implement our projects. And it has been working fantastically for us. And I know most of the people on the panel, I know they also use the same meticulous community entry processes. And that is the way to go. If you want communities to imbibe the information, the climate change conversations and communications you are bringing to them, you also need to be able to work with them, respect them, involve them from the beginning. And I think that's a very, very important point I need to restate. We should not assume that we know and take it to them. You need to work with them to develop the concept. I mean, you might have the concept, but developing the implementation modalities involve communities from the beginning, and so that they will own it. And this morning, one of our panelists was making that point, ownership of the intervention. You can only get ownership of the intervention from the communities when you involve them at the start of the project, not midway through the project. Because your donors might be coming to verify, you go and you pick one or two people to just showcase them. You will not get lasting interventions or lasting solutions if we do that. So those are some of the interventions or some of the approaches we have used by involving community from the beginning, by respecting them, by really respecting the socio-cultural nuances within the communities, and also gender issues, very, very important. I know you asked about gender, so let me one of the things we have observed in our interventions is that when you involve especially women in the program from the beginning, forgive me, but women gossip a lot, maybe in a good way. So they talk among themselves, and so they carry your message to probably the streams when they are going to fetch water, to the farm when they are going with their friends. They will talk about the intervention that you are doing, and it works like wildfire. It catches fire and it goes. So it's important to observe that gender issues when you are implementing your project. And again, timing of interventions. One of the things that we observed at EcoCare through our MOCPA project was, at what times do you want to engage communities, especially if the target is to get women? And we realized that after farm hours, after 4 p.m., when women have come back from the farm, they have done their cooking, and then you get the PA systems, your projector, and everybody within the community will come and gather around. At that time, you're able to really get better participation and involvement of cross-section of the community, especially the women and mothers. So that is also one strategy you can use to get communities interested in your projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's important to involve women. We are not good at gossiping, we are good at campaigning. So we'll campaign for your project, you are good at that. And I think one thing that I like from what you said was us respecting communities, their culture, which is very important. I know in Sunyame, where we are doing our restoration project, on Wednesdays, they don't go to farm. So if you want to get the community members in the at one place. Wednesday is perfect because they don't go to farm. So if you respect that culture, I mean, it will help you in all your in the work that you are doing. So, Yabo, I'll come back to you. I think we want to wrap up very soon. It's almost 1 hour is almost up. So, Yabo, I'll come back to you. In what ways has um, Ghana successfully engaged, empowered young people in climate action through nature-based solutions?
Okay, so I believe the government has engaged the youth in a lot of initiatives. If you take the National Entrepreneurship and the Innovation Program, for instance, they have the greenhouse ecosystem where they have established greenhouses for farming at Dowenya, for instance, where they engage young farmers to go into production. So at the end of the day, that's one effective way the government has engaged with the young people. Aside that, there are a lot of training initiatives, capacity building workshop that CSOs also organize for young people on how to build their capacities, because somebody might have an idea to undertake an initiative, but if the person doesn't have the necessary knowledge or skills, the person might not be able to implement that project. So CSOs are really doing well, but building the capacity of the young people. SYD, for instance, almost every month, there's a capacity building workshop, either on climate change, energy efficiency, biodiversity, name it. Then there are a whole lot of other youth CSOs within the space where they're also building the capacity of a lot of young people so that they can upskill their climate initiative. One thing that I wish to see is that at the end of the day, there should be collaboration among all these CSOs within the ecosystem so that together we can work together to achieve the common goal. Because if we are divided, our impacts might not be really felt. I know we are doing a lot in silos, but once we're able to come together under one umbrella, our impacts might be felt larger. So aside that, also, I know private sector are also engaging young people. Some are running green businesses and other initiatives where they build their capacity. So all this come together to ensure that the young Ghanaian capacity is well built. No matter the initiative that you want to embark on as a youth, once you have the desire and you go to the internet and search, I'm sure you'll find either a CSO, a private sector, or a government initiative that will relate to whatever ambition that you have. And once you get in touch with them, they'll be able to build your capacity so that you can implement your project and achieve the results that you intend to.
Okay, thank you very much. We will be ending shortly. I'll be taking your final words, but before that, Charles, please, I will come to you. So I know FC has successfully implemented Red Plus projects, and the evidence is really showing. So what are some of the most effective ways of harnessing nature-based solutions to build resilient communities that you can share with other people from different parts of the world who are listening and who are also here?
Thank you very much. I think I will talk about three major things. As a government institution, it's important that we are able to build very good intersectoral coordination, because when I mentioned our study about the drivers of deforestation, I mentioned that we realized it was the main driver, amongst others, was agricultural expansion. Now, we are the forest sector, and we identify a driver that's within the agricultural sector. So what do? We need to collaborate with the agri sector, okay? So this is very significant. You need to have a very good intersectoral coordination to have everybody on board. And as I mentioned, our premier program, the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, we mentioned cocoa. And it's, in Ghana, is the Ghana Cocoa Board that, is mainly responsible for cocoa. And so what do? We collaborate very closely with Ghana Cocoa Board to implement the program. And so you realize that all that we do is always, sitting at a space where you have all the relevant stakeholders sitting on the table. When you want to engage you want to implement such a program as Obed just mentioned, you need to engage. You need to engage. You have to bring all stakeholders on board. You don't just walk into a community and try to coordinate and bring farmers together. You need to engage the traditional authority. You need to engage the powers that be within these communities and respect their cultural norms and rights. And that is the only way you will get their buy-in or their identification to whatever you want to do and acceptance to whatever you want to do. The word here is bottom-up. Whatever you do, you need to ensure that you are starting the whole discussion right from the grassroots. And so you have to let people understand exactly what you want to implement. You don't come in as, the know-all, okay? It's an idea that you have, and it's a vision that you have, seen and you want to achieve. But you need the people to implement. So the issue about nature-based solution is not something that can be done by technology alone. It's people who have to do it. And so you have to, it's very key to be able to have the skill and the capacity to be able to engage very well. And engagement is not only to inform. Sometimes people go around, call what they are doing engagement, stakeholder engagement, but they come, invite people to a place, sit, and then they start pouring down what they want to do. Okay, it doesn't work. So as I mentioned, with the ideas that we have in the Red Plus implementation, we really engage, we consulted. So when I mentioned the four pillars of the Warsaw framework, I mentioned safeguards. Safeguards is a very key aspect. Now, in all these processes, until we saw money, we didn't know that farmers could express so much technical knowledge. There was a time that we invited farmers to Accra to discuss the receipt of the first payment. And when we started talking about the percentages and what goes to who, people brought out their calculators and they were calculating to the decimal point. So if this kind of plan was not very well engaged, the engagement process was not very wide and very much accepted, we could have had serious challenges. And I wouldn't mince words to say that Ghana has been one of the countries that, with respect to the receipt of the payments for emission reductions, have been able to go ahead and disburse monies. We have actually, disbursed part of the 69% of these farmer benefits. Their benefits are in threefold. One goes to farmer produce that the farmers are benefiting as the cooperatives that are involved in the project. There is also community benefits, which are communal, projects that has to be also implemented. Now we have already disbursed and procured whatever farm to produce that farm tools these farmers need, and it has been distributed already. We have also received now their proposals for project implementation, and we are at the verge of releasing funds for these project implementation. So what I want to say in a nutshell is that in the quest to implement nature-based solutions, whichever way you want to do it, ensure that you engage very widely and you involve these communities and these farmers that will help in implementing these nature-based solutions right from the outset, and engage very well. Be very transparent and let them know exactly what is at stake, and then you will not have so much problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you. We are grateful that you came. So we will be taking your final words. But before that, I want to ask the audience if any of you have questions for our panelists. You can kindly come up here, use the mic here, and then you ask your question. So any of you, if you have a question, kindly come, and then I'm sure you can direct it to all of them or any of them, and they will answer you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah,
All right, thank you very much. My question will go directly to my boss, Obed. I want you to share with us maybe a challenge trying to work with the government or getting the government on board. If you have worked on a project with government, just for us to know the bottlenecks, if there is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Che has even volunteered to help me with that. So I'll share my own experiences and then Che will add up to it. Fortunately for me, I used to work for Forestry Commission. So, and you know, not only within the forestry sector, but in all sectors, building informal relationships are very, very important. So the people, you know, I can work and I can confidently say I can go to the CEO's office and he will welcome me. So that has been helpful. But before I got there have been instances, and I can give you an example when I used to deal with civic response, when we wanted to develop the Ghana Transparency Portal. And if you haven't visited that portal, please go and look for it. The Ghana Transparency Portal is a portal that gives you a peek into the Ghana wood tracking system. How much timber are we producing, the numbers and all that. Please go and look for it. And we needed to engage government to agree on the number of the data, the information to be able to assess using our portal, and it was hectic. Charles, I know you are here. I'll say it anyway. When you are going to engage with government, you need to go with resources. You need to seriously go with resources. I'm not going to define resources. I'm sure we all implement projects. We know what resources are. You need to go with resources because getting them to sit with you, to engage, you need to be able to facilitate. I will not explain. I'm sure you understand. So that is one point. And again, I remember during the wildlife management bill conversations, when we were pushing for it, we needed to take the members of parliament to Aqua Safari and to go and have a whole, almost a week engagement on the bill. And you go and there were 19 members of the Parliamentary Select Committee, but you go to the restaurant and you see that there are 36 people that have come to have lunch, and they are charging it against you. So the point I'm making, no, you know what I'm talking about. So the challenges are that you need to have resources to engage with government, but most importantly, you need to have alternatives. So when you're going to government with let's say there's a government policy you want to engage on, don't go just to go and engage. Don't go just to go and talk about it. You need to always have a plan B, an alternative to what the government is pushing for. And that will help you to be able to get through to them, because when you go and say, don't do this, they will ask you, if we shouldn't do this, what should we do? So you should always have a proposal or alternative, and that will facilitate your engagement with government. But resources, very important. You need to have resources.
Okay. I think, Charles, you wanted to also.
I think briefly, the key challenge has got to do with perception. Most people in government feel that NGOs have money and we create money somehow. So, of course, that is one perception. The other perception is that people in civil society do not know, but we talk, and we do not present alternatives. So that is another major perception. But one thing that we need to know is that we need to break and understand the dynamics of government. There are those in the policy, and then there are those in the executive, and there are those who are in the agencies implementing. Sometimes we work a lot with those in the agencies implementing. But those who are in the executive are taking political decisions, and sometimes it's difficult for them to understand from what point you are coming from. I remember recently our advocacy on Achimota Forest. We had to make noise on Kakum and you see the back and forth. The fact is that sometimes those working in the agency support our move and they give us information as civil society to engage because they feel that by virtue of what they do and how they work and the structure of government, they cannot speak. But they do not agree most of the time. I can tell you for a fact the issue of mining in forest reserve, most of the people working in agencies do not agree. But there are those who are taking decisions as part of the executive arm of government, and they know reasons why they want to do that. So we need to understand the various levels of government, and then we are able to work with them accordingly. Some will take decisions based on politics and nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there was a hand here and one there. So, okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think there has been very good observations from the NGOs. But what I want to say is just to add a little bit to what Chase said. It's very significant to know the dynamics when you want to engage the government. I mean, there are the policymakers, there are the executives, and there are the implementers, the technical people on the ground. There are times when I sit at the headquarters of the Forestry Commission, and we receive some reports or later, final outcomes of engagements that NGOs have had with some of our staff at the district and regional levels, and they kind of at a point hit a brick wall and they don't understand why there is supposed to be, a sign of a final outcome and it's not happening. As I said, even as governments, when we want to implement anything, we engage. And when I say engagement, it has to be involving all the necessary stakeholders. I know of an NGO that has engaged Forestry Commission, some part of Forestry Commission at some level to develop something that needs a sign of or a kind of approval at the executive level. And this whole process was done at the blind side of everybody. And so you now come up with an outcome and you want it to be signed off. Of course, if I sit at the district office and you bring me an invitation letter to come for an engagement or a stakeholder meeting, I will not decline. Okay, I come to sit there and you take my name as part of your participants and you record it as you have engaged the government. These things happen with NGOs. So I just want to also try and draw your attention to some of the lapses that happens with NGO implementation, and they think that they need to bring out resources or stuff like that. Now, let me address that resources issue quickly. There are times where, for example, the two gentlemen sitting here with us are well known to somebody like me and some of us at the Forestry Commission, because all that they said are things that we do. And so Obed mentioned that they are even, borrowing some of our creations to, implement some of the things that they do. And we are very, appreciative of their support. But what's important is that there is a need to engage and collaborate very effectively. There were times when you would receive letters from NGOs that they are trying to seek for financial support from corporates or from development partners, and they need the government to sign an, what do you call it? A letter of support. Okay, and we gladly sign off this letter of support, and you never see them again. Not that they should come back and give you anything, but what's significant, and that's what the strategy we've taken now, that we rather would sign an MOU where there are roles earmarked, okay, so that if the government is involved, then you want to develop, or restore mangroves. You as an NGO, as Che just said, they are advocates. They are able to really, speak on behalf of communities. So NGOs can support in the advocacy, but the Forestry Commission has a wildlife division which implements restoration of mangroves. So what will be the role of Forestry Commission? Forestry Commission can be on the ground to support technically with the implementation of the mangrove, restoration. But then we give them this letter of support, and they go and take their, financial support, and you never see them again. By the time you realize they are engaging forest guards, they are engaging range supervisors on the ground, and they have a way of reporting to these, donors, and everything will be on perfectly in terms of their reporting. Okay. At the end of the day, they will come up with a report, and then they will bring it to the executive, or probably they will need, a policy review. And at that point, nobody knows what you have done. Though we signed a letter of support, you never came back, you never engaged, you never involved the government in anything that you did. You did everything in, obscurity. And then at the end of the day, you want to engage. So, okay, we would need you to take us through what you have done. Let us understand where you stand. And let's review and see how it fits into our policies and our operations. Okay? And so if Obed wants to develop a transparency portal, and we want to sit and engage, really go through stepwise what your ideas are and how it fits into the ideologies of the government, and how we can all come together to present such a portal, so that it will support and be very much in line with whatever we are doing. Then we need to engage, okay? We need to sit. And so, since you have the funds and you have the funds, the funds and the resources, then we have to sit and engage. And so these are some of the gaps that, if you don't really understand the dynamics very well, you would think that government is demanding something, but no, it's very necessary that you engage. And so once you go the right way and you really earmark roles and responsibilities, then there's no need for any form of resources, provision of resources, because the whole thing is being implemented together. But if you go and implement by yourself, and you want to come and just get a rubber stamp of whatever you have done, it never happens that way. So this is an advice or kind of clarification that I would want to give for us to be able to merge these two. Yes, exactly. There should be an MOU, so that we can collaborate very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I think there were two hands. We just take those two questions and then we wrap up. Yeah, so Bada, you can come and ask a question. After that, my brother at the back will also.
Okay, thank you very much. I think my question is to anyone who can answer it best. Okay, what advice will you give to young people who want to go into restoration? They want to go into nature-based solutions because they have passion. And what advice will you give to them, and how would they secure funding for their projects?
If I can take this one. Number one, for young people, you need to learn. It's very important. Passion alone is good, but you may make a lot of mistakes along the line. I've seen people trying to plant trees, and the type of species they are planting are not the right ones, or they are planting in areas where it is earmarked for road expansion, and the next year is gone. So you need to learn, and then you also need to understand exactly what you want to do. There are occasions where you need to belong to a network so that you can better collaborate and then be part of a team. Building a team spirit is very important. Then I always tell young people that I don't think you should be directing towards the money first. Because if you look at the money, you'll be discouraged. You'll be discouraged because you would think that, I've met young people, you would think that once you present something to a possible donor and you have that passion you want to do, the money must flow. And after months and years, if the money doesn't come, then they feel that nobody's understanding their language. So if your drive is to secure the money, you'll be discouraged. So it is important to belong to network. It's important to build a team spirit. It's important to learn. And that is the most important thing I would want to share. Because, for instance, even for the issues of advocacy and some of the things we have spoken about here, once you have the knowledge and you develop the skills, it facilitates your work very easy. I've had opportunities where we have to support some young people, even pitch for money. And sometimes the capacity and the skills you give them makes it easier. So that is very important. Then also realize that fundraising is about relationship. So you must be able to build relationship. For instance, there are a couple of things you can be involved in to show that you are able to do it with or without money. I was telling some young people, some of the donors, development partners have times they do some cleanups at the beach and things like that. Get yourself involved and then be there. Let them know that you are there to support. And then they see that, okay, you can do that. It's about relationships. So let's learn to build a relationship. And also let's learn the skills of fundraising, the skills of the things we want to do. It's very important.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, time. They say because of that. So my brother will ask the last question and then we'll go.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Let me make it brief. So I'm Samir, a nuclear scientist. My question is, how are we bridging the gap where we create the synergy between what is being done in terms of the Forestry Commission, and then, for instance, involving partners, for instance, in the nuclear engineers. What I see, for example, is that if we talk about climate issues, it's not just the felling of trees. Now, there's a whole ecosystem, and people come and play roles in there. For me, as a nuclear engineer, it's even hard explaining to people that you don't just form an NGO and then all you are doing is bringing up trees. Today in the West, we see that they will call something like carbon credit and all that stuff. When you say that, then it's like people are tired of you. They don't know what is it this guy wants to achieve. So the synergy that we are creating, I don't know if it should be directed to the Forestry Commission, because you really cannot tell an NGO that you need a scientist. He just wants to do social intervention and all that. But to what regard or to what extent do we make sure that, no, the guy wants to build, like he said, he wants to build trees or put trees in the middle of roads. He doesn't care. All he wants to do is put trees there. And if he doesn't have the right people to tell him, probably you don't even need to grow trees. You need to just go to company A23 and tell them that their carbon emissions should be reduced by this margin. How can they do it? Scientific. You don't necessarily need to go. Yeah. So thank you. That's my question. I hope I'll get a response from it. Thank you.
I don't know if Charles will take this one.
Hello. Yeah, I think it's okay. No, I get your point. To start with, I think there need to be proper intersectorial coordination. You see, there need to be a policy environment for some of these things to happen. You are, and just this evening, I was talking to some of the nuclear people, and they were talking about the future of energy should be towards nuclear. And I'm like, okay, I am from Ghana. I know what happened in Japan. Even Japan, very developed. When there was was it Fukushima, whatever, look at what happened. Right now, almost $300 million worth of fish that Japan used to export to China, they are unable to export because of this nuclear disaster that happened and the release of contaminated water into the sea. So the issue is, no, we understand that when it comes to climate change issues, it shouldn't be, we should not overly focus on only restoration, tree planting. We need to look at other alternatives. But whilst looking at other alternatives, we also need to be mindful of where we are situated, your location, the policy environment, and all those issues come to play. I share in your passion that probably the way to go is not to plant trees alone, but to also do other things. But you need to have an existing policy environment, and that policy environment can only exist if there is intersectoral coordination. Atomic Energy working with Forestry Commission, working with the district assemblies, and they are developing a system that will allow some of these sectors to also thrive. So yes, I think we understand you, but we need time and probably a bit of resources to be able to develop the environment that will allow some of these things to happen.
Yeah, briefly, in the National Energy Transition Policy 2020-2070, nuclear power is one of the key areas government has identified. So there is opportunity in that regard. But what it is that it is not an area that broadly people understand. So that is an opportunity. Any challenge is an opportunity for you. So what I would advise you, free advice, set up platforms, start to talk about nuclear, start to sensitize and educate people why it's a good alternative. And maybe you get a lot of people to appreciate that. It is like starting your own NGO. And if you want some of us to guide you, we can guide you to do that because that is an area. Good.
Okay, thank you all very much. Because of time, we want to end there. I'm very grateful, Obed, Che, Charles, and Yaweboa for honoring our invitation. I think 3 things I'm taking from here is that you can't build a resilient community without the people in the community. And then you can't do restoration for the people without the people in the community. And respect is also very key when you want to work with community members. Respect their culture, respect their rules and their norms. So that's what I will take from here. Thank you all very much. And with our audience too, we are very grateful that you are here. Without you, we couldn't have done this. So thank you all. But before we go, we would like to take a group picture with the panel members, and then after that, the audience can also join us. My name is Salome J, and I've been your moderator for today. Thank you.